All right, so we're recording. Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining. I'm really excited, looking forward to this. There's actually been several people that specifically
I can't hear
requested.
you. 1 minute.
Oh, no problem. I'll tell you when we're ready.
Should
So
be working.
take your time. Don't worry. We'll be on in a few minutes.
Oh, 1 second.
Take your time, Koza. All right, I'll get
Oh,
started.
now I hear you. What's up, Rabbi Landa?
Hello, Yisrael. How you doing?
Thank the one above.
Awesome. Good. So while you're getting started, I'll just tell everyone a reminder of some very exciting upcoming events. This coming exactly in a week from now, which is August 30th, we have an incredible talk on Sunday, August 30th. It's going to be in the evening. It's with a hero from 9/11. His name is Ari Schoenborn. An incredible story of how he was a hero of the day in the first tower. He was on the 75th floor. He was one of the only survivors of 600 employees of his firm.
I have a conference call after.
An incredible story, and I do suggest you tune in. That will be next Sunday evening. You could sign up online. I'll be sending out an email today or tomorrow about it. But then there's another really exciting event. It's coming up on September 13th, the Sunday before Rosh Hashanah. It should be an amazing, amazing event. We have the Jerusalem Post rates her as from the 50 most influential people of the Jewish people. Her name is Sivan Rachav Meir. A lot of it, she's very popular in Israel. She has been, some people say she's the most influential woman in Israel, rated by other magazines. She's an orthodox and observant journalist, a news anchor, but has some amazing messages. And she's really bridging the divide in Israel and around the world. And I suggest you tune in. That will be Sunday, September 13th. We have Rosh Hashanah coming up in less than a month. We'll be putting out information. We did a poll, and many of you responded to our survey, over 75 people, 75 families. So we have some great information that we're going to be sharing later this week about the high holidays. All right, we'll get started. For those that are more comfortable, I prefer that you try to mute yourself. Of course, you could ask any questions in the chat. Unless you're not able to, then you could unmute yourself. But that way we could hear what's going on in India as best as possible. So, Kozo, I'll unmute you, Kozo, or maybe unmute yourself, Yisrael.
Yes.
All right, Rabbi Kozlovsky, how are you? Could you hear us?
So great to see you, Rabbi Landa. It feels like 10 years flied like yesterday.
I know. It's been a while. For those that are not familiar, Yisrael and I go back to yeshiva days when we were together in New York. We really had some great times. We studied some good Torah together. We got in some mischief together. Rabbi Kozlovsky, I'm going to ask you not to share any of our embarrassing stories to our community.
Please. If I'll tell the stories, you'll end up in India like me.
So for those that don't know, if I could only mimic Yisrael's joy and humor, I would be in good shape. He's full of joy. We definitely need that now. It's contagious, and amazing that he went to India and he's bringing this joy and excitement, enthusiasm to a place like India. It's really, really, really amazing. So Yisrael, I want to start with you. We have like 45 minutes here that I'm going to try to squeeze it all in, and we'll see if it'll go a little over with questions.
Yes.
I want to start with you. I know you from yeshiva, but tell me where you're from, and tell me a little bit about your childhood, how you met your wife.
So I'm from Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. My parents both became Lubavitch, both became Chabad after they were married. My father actually, just a little before marriage, after the army, he went to do a cross-country in the United States. And somehow another friend of him brought him to Crown Heights, and they both walked into a Farbrengen that the Rebbe had, a Torah teaching that the Rebbe had. I'm not sure what the date, I know it's 1973. And they both knew Yiddish as their mother tongue, and they came and they stayed. Basically, this is where they became the Rebbe's followers. And my mother, a little bit she got married to my father, they started sending their kids to Chabad. And same applies to my wife. My in-laws are also not coming from a Lubavitch family, but they both joined Chabad. And here we are. Here we are, it's okay, half an hour. Here we are. So I did the general 3 years in a yeshiva in Lod, 3 years in a yeshiva in Kfar Chabad. Then I went to New York. After New York for a year, I was sent to Vancouver, BC. And afterwards, again, back to New York, I was studying at the Rebbe's resting place for 2.5 years. Then I got married, lived in Israel for 2 years, and started looking for a place to go on shlichus. And it was obvious for both of us, me and my wife, that we will go on shlichus. There was no question. I think it was the first question my wife asked me when we met was, are you in or out? And I said, of course, yes, I'm in. I never thought it will go to that extent, but life takes you to give you some surprises. So we were looking for a place. We couldn't find it. It was pretty difficult to find a place to go. We looked for a place that it will be both busy enough, but whatever, it was complicated. I don't remember, it was like 10 years ago. So, and then one day I met a friend, Rabbi Cantor from Thailand, whom as a student, I spent a few good months in Thailand helping him in his Chabad house in Bangkok or throughout Thailand. And I asked him, Rabbi, do you have a place for me to go? Rabbi Landa, is it going too long already?
No, it's going great.
So he told me, yes, you can go to Laos. Now, for those of you who don't know, Laos, it's a country neighbors with Thailand, China, and Vietnam. Now, Laos had a Chabad house, and there was some licensing issues over there. And the rabbi's wife, the Chabad house was in a place in a city called Luang Prabang, which is the second largest city. And the rabbi's wife needed to give birth. You know, that's happened from time to time, especially by our families. And there was no hospital in that place in Luang Prabang. There's no hospital, so they flew to Thailand to give birth. And then the high holiday came. And me, together with two of my friends, we were in Bangkok at the time. And Rabbi Cantor called us to his office, called me and my friend to his office and says, are you interested in going to Laos for the high holidays? I said, no. He said, okay, so just to let you know that if you don't go there, nobody will be there, and there'll be nobody to blow the shofar, nobody to host the hundreds of Israelis.
We call it Jewish guilt. It works well, Jewish guilt.
Yeah. So we said, okay, but just for Rosh Hashanah. Said, okay, I'll speak with the rabbi that his wife just gave birth, that for Yom Kippur, he will already come back. Anyway, we went in for Rosh Hashanah, and we didn't know anything about the place, and we asked before, how many people should we prepare for? So they told us about 50. We end up the evening, Rosh Hashanah night, I think we had 180 Israelis. They're backpackers, not only Israelis.
Wow.
And the next day, it was insane. People traveled, it was the only Jewish point throughout the country. People travel like 15 hours by car just to be with us.
Wow.
And the next day we had the police coming because all of a sudden, all the guest houses, all the hotels, filing up the forms and saying that they have Israeli guests. And it's very unusual to have overwhelming Israeli population. So they try to find out what happened, and they find out that there is some sort of a center. So anyway, long story short, we are called for investigations. It's a communist country. We are called for investigations. Our passports taken away, but see, life seems to be beautiful. They let us go back. Erev Rosh Hashanah, Erev Yom Kippur, I'm sorry. 7 o'clock in the morning, a police knocking on our door. You need to come now. Anyway, we showed up at about 10, 11 o'clock, and they told us you are deported from the country and for having illegal activities because religious is illegal. We tried to explain them that we have nothing to do with the locals. We're not trying to influence anyone. We're not trying to convert anybody, but they didn't pay attention. And we end up landing back in Bangkok 25 minutes before Kol Nidre. And so we didn't have food that day. We didn't do kaparot. There was probably a few more things that we didn't do at that day. But most important, we didn't eat. Now it's Yom Kippur. So the rabbi from Bangkok, who sent us a car with police cars to escort us to the Chabad house, he sent us food, lots of schnitzels and stuff. The only thing he forgot to bring us was water to drink. So we tried to explain the Thai cops that we need water if they have in the police car, if they have water. Anyway, they didn't have water. So they stopped in the highway, they stopped in one of the toll booths. And we are anxious to get to the Chabad house, or at least as close as possible to the Chabad house, that we won't need to walk a lot. And we had also Sefer Torah and all of our belongings and everything. Anyway, the co-driver walks out of the police car, goes to the booth, comes back with like 4 cups of water, gives us. Anyway, 5 minutes later, it was already sunset. We had to walk for about 45 minutes in a place we don't even know. We didn't know the city, directions or anything. The only thing I remember is I needed to use the washroom. And the only washroom I found was McDonald's. So a Hasidic boy walked in at the time of Kol Nidre to a McDonald's. This is the picture. Anyway, so Rabbi Cantor says, now this is fast forward 5 years. Rabbi Cantor tells me, we walked out the legality and now we have license and everything to operate. You can go, you're looking for a place to go on Shlichut, right? You are welcome to join us and go to Laos. And I told him, no, Laos. Well, I was scared from the experience I had. Also, it's a place with only Israeli backpackers. Or backpackers in general. There's no local community whatsoever. And my wife, she needs more of an action. She's not just a housewife. So I said, just about 5 minutes later, he taps on my shoulder and he says, did you said you're looking for a place? I said, yeah, sure. I said, Mumbai. How about Mumbai? I said, what? No chance. I said, why not? My wife will never agree. India, you crazy? Anyway, long story short, a week later, we landed in Mumbai. So a week or 10 days, I think 10 days later, we landed in Mumbai. And here we are, 8 years later.
Amazing, Israel. And I'm just going to pull up on the screen. Yeah, go ahead.
It's 8 years. It's almost 8 years to the date. It was Chai Elul. So it's almost 8 years to the date. Yeah.
Wow. So we're going to get a little bit more somber here. And I know it's not your style, but Mumbai, for those that are not familiar, Mumbai was a place around 13 years ago where there was this terrible terrorist attack. And one of the targets was the Chabad in the Nariman house of Mumbai. And Gabi and Rifki Holtzberg, Rifki was pregnant. They had their child Moshe. They had 4 guests who were visiting for some kosher dinner and to meet the Chabad there. And they were the scene of a terrorist attack. I remember it, of course, very vividly, and Yisrael for sure does as well. And I'm sure some of you together here this morning are remembering Gabi and Rifki Holtzberg, who was the rabbi. We call them the Kedoshim. They were holy, and they were killed al Kiddush Hashem in November, if I'm not mistaken, 2008. And thank you, Yisrael. I'm just going to show another amazing picture. Yisrael, maybe, I don't know if I told you, but I've been doing this for a few Sundays with different Chabads. We did Cambodia with Rabbi Ben Zion, and we did South Korea with
Oh,
Asher. And one of the amazing
so
things.
it's a tough competition. You should have told me before. I would have told you that I'm busy.
So one of the amazing things they were showing us is their mikvahs. And I found this picture. I'm just going to share my screen. I found this beautiful picture of Rivki Holtzberg of blessed memory, who was at a ribbon cutting ceremony of their mikvah in Mumbai. And I found that to be very precious because it was by her mikvah ribbon cutting.
By the way, Rabbi Landa, the previous picture you showed of both of them, it's also there in the mikveh.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's one of two pictures that we know of that both of them stood up to take a picture, like official picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is you and your family that decided to move, that chose Mumbai. And this is the picture you're referring to. So Yisrael, could you, when you heard Mumbai and as an opportunity to start a Chabad, there was already a Chabad there, and it was a very dangerous place that you were moving into. What was your emotions? What was your feelings? What was your wife's reaction? Did you consider not going because of the terrorism, or what was going through your mind?
You want me to be politically correct or to be realistic?
Only politically correct.
I don't know where you are in America. It's very it's confusing now. But I thought that my wife, we the men are usually reckless, and we can do things that are unresponsible. But I thought my wife, which she's the normal half of our couple, she'll tell me no. So when the rabbi told me there's an option to go to Mumbai, I said there's no way my wife will agree. When I got back home, it was Friday, okay, where does all the business, all the deals are happening in shul on Friday night, right? So I got back home, and after Kiddush, I told my wife, Chaya, we have an offer for Shlichus. Now, it was almost a routine. Every weekend, I would come back home. Every Friday night, I would come back home, and I said, Chaya, we have a place to go. And during the week, for one reason or another, the place, the offer was not right, or there's already another rabbi on the place, or whatever. But so she told me, okay, what's now? I told her, no, now it's serious. So I told her Mumbai, and she told me, let's hear. Anyway, and we both went for a meeting, and as I told you, a week later we've arrived. About 5 or 6 years ago, my wife was interviewed for Chabad.org. I'm sure you're familiar with this website. And she told the interviewer something I never knew, that during the attack in 2008, we were not married yet. She was still studying in school. And she thought for herself that if I would have been married now and looking for a position, looking for a place to go, I would go to Mumbai.
Wow.
So wow. I never knew this story, and she told it in the interview. And I was more amazed. I'll tell you a personal story. I was more amazed with my father-in-law. Okay, are you ready to hear father-in-law story, or it's too much, Rabbi Landa?
No, we can handle it. I would love to hear.
You can handle it. So my mother-in-law passed away about 6 months before we got married. They had 4 kids. They have 4 kids, and my in-laws did not have kids for about 10 years. And they got a blessing from the Rebbe, and then they had my first brother-in-law, who is a year about my age, and then my wife, she's about 2 years younger than me, then another boy, then another. Now, my brother-in-law got married about 2 years before me, or a year and a half before me, and didn't have kids. We got married, and it took us, in our world, it's considered to be a long time. It took us about a year and a half. And my wife was pregnant she was 8 months into pregnancy when we got this offer. Now we got the offer on Saturday. My father-in-law was not home on Shabbat. So my father-in-law is now expecting the first grandchild, okay? And he is already in his 60s, which is very unusual in our world to be in the 60s and to expect the first grandchild. And Sunday, both of us go to the meeting. No, I went to the meeting myself, and then I realized that it's serious. So Rabbi Kantor told me, listen, I want to meet your wife too, because the shlichut or the mission is not only for you, but it's for both of you, or maybe it's even more for her than you. So I want to speak with her. I want to talk to her too. So at that point of time, we were living in a very small apartment, rented apartment in Yerushalayim. There was no space to move. So I called my wife and I said, Rabbi Kantor wants to come to speak with us. And she said, listen, the house is nasty. Everything there's balagan. How do you say balagan?
It's upside down.
Yeah, it's upside down. There's no space to move. Call him to my father-in-law's house. We were living not far away, so I'm calling him from my father-in-law's house. As we're walking into the house, my father-in-law is sitting in the kitchen, having his lunch, and we're sitting in the hall and talking. Now, my father-in-law never heard about this whole idea. Now, we are speaking with Rabbi Kantor, and we're telling Rabbi Kantor that we need to think about it. We're not sure whether we fit the pollution and the weather and whatever, all sorts of things. You know, the first thing that jumps to your mind when you hear that you're going to spend the rest of your life in India. And as we finished so we told Rabbi Kantor that we need to think about it. Basically, that was the bottom line. And Rabbi Kantor walks away. My father-in-law comes to us and said, "Atem meshugaim? You are crazy? Tell him yes now."
Wow.
Now, that for me was an amazing thing, because my father-in-law didn't grow up the way we grew up. We grew up in the Chabad schooling system and the Chabad education, and in the light of the Rebbe from day one, we knew that this is what we're going to do. My father-in-law is not coming from a Chabad family, and he's expecting his first, he just lost his wife about a year and a half before, 2 years before, and he's expecting his first granddaughter. That was an amazing experience. Obviously, we are good Jewish bargainers. We didn't say immediately yes. Took us a few days to say yes, but we end up in Mumbai. But yes, to answer your question, definitely, the first few months we didn't have rest sleeping, and up until today, there's sometimes I just got a letter from the Israeli chief of security at the Israeli consulate that the local police, the Mumbai police, send them that he needs to increase in light of the new threats, blah, 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 blah. He needs to increase security at the consulate and at the, one second, I'll tell you, I look at the letter, the term was a little funny for me. Second. So it says residents, you need to increase security in the residence of Consul General of the Israeli consulate and the El Al airline office, and in the residence of the Jewish Dharma Guru, which means the guru of the Jewish people. You need to increase the security on their residence. And at times we have those threats, but nothing is compared to Corona or COVID. You know, they never experienced anything like this.
Wow.
Okay.
So, Yisrael, I'm going to start. Let me ask you questions about India. In general, do you see anti-Semitism walking the streets of Mumbai? Are you familiar? Do you feel different? Do they treat you differently? With more respect, less respect? Are you concerned that your wife is walking?
So there is a little change from what was 8 years ago to what is it now, not for the good, but at the other end, so first of all, in India, there's no awareness, okay? Israel almost does not exist. Jews, although Jews lived in India for 2,000 years, but they are not considered, there was no anti-Semitism in India. There was no anti-Semitism, if I'm not mistaken, anywhere in Asia or in Southeast Asia at least. Maybe Japan during the World War II, but I'm really not sure. I'm almost sure that there was no any act of anti-Semitism in this part of the world. Even the terror attack on the Chabad house, which was the first kind, the first act of anti-Semitism on the Indian soil, was made by Pakistani terrorists. It was an imported terrorism and not local one. So in the beginning, I walked in the street and nobody had a clue who am I. In Mumbai, it's a city of 23 million people. There's enough weird people walking in the street, so you just add one more, makes no much of a difference. Especially when we are wearing these white shirts and we have our yarmulke and we have beards, so for some people it looks like Muslims. So I would hear very often, salam alaikum, and I would repeat, alaikum salam, I would say in the last couple of years, there's a lot more awareness between Israel to India. Israel is much more in the news, especially since the current government is in power, which is Modi's government, and they are Hindus kind of nationalized, and they like the tie in Israel, and they brought the ties with Israel into the public. And so Israel gets much more publicity. We had also two very important visits. We had President Rivlin visiting our Chabad house, and we had also Prime Minister Netanyahu visiting our Chabad house. So there's a lot more, way more awareness this time in our days than what it was 8 years ago. However, I don't feel any lack of security. My wife walks in the street 3 in the morning. And the street I live in are not the most pleasant one due to, it's not nice. And you have people living in the streets, and you have those beggars in the streets, unfortunately. But and the smell is not the most pleasant one. Of studying Torah, there is a law that says that you're not allowed to think of Torah or to say words of Torah in a place which is unappropriated. It's smell, or for example, in a washroom. And I think the only Chabad shaliach that meets this law every day and the way between the house to the Chabad house is myself, because walking in the streets of Mumbai, you want to study, you want to do some stuff, but you can't because due to the conditions on the place. But there's no any.
Just to explain what Yisrael was saying, there's a law that you don't daven, you don't pray in a place that's inappropriate, in a place that doesn't have a place that's like a bathroom. And for us living in Marin, it's not that hard. I pray when I walk to synagogue, when I walk to shul. It's over 2 miles. But the whole time I could review Mishnah with my children. We have views of mountains. People say hi to us. And my friend Yisrael, he has every day whenever he walks, he can't repeat any Torah because of the conditions of the streets. So I want to take you. Yeah.
People are very lovely. People say hello, people smile, we smile to them. My kids speak the local language, which is Marathi, so it's a lot of fun, but just the Torah is not part of it.
So Yisrael, you said that Jews' history in India is like 2,000 years old. Are you familiar a little more? If I'm not mistaken, a lot of the 10 lost tribes are in India, the B'nai.
Yeah, so the B'nai Israel Jews. So the history of Jews in India, there are, I would say, three communities. there was the oldest community, which is in Cochin, was in Cochin. And that people, there is some saying that there are evidence in the Bible, in the Tanakh, that there are evidence at the time of King Solomon, that there are evidence of Jewish people residing in Cochin. There were very good business people doing lots of trades in spices and perfumes. And this community almost, there's about less than 10 people remaining in that city, in that place. Most of this community picked up and left in 1950, I think 1951 or 1952. And they all left to Israel. They called the Kuchini Jews. They are living in few moshavim, few villages in Israel where they all settled together, and they simply moved because of the love to the land of Israel. Then there is the community, which is majority of that community is in Mumbai. It's called the Bnei Israel Jews, which they were discovered by one of the Kochini Jews about 350 years ago.
Wow.
They were discovered in Maharashtra, which is where Mumbai is. Mumbai is the capital of the state of Maharashtra, which is where those Bnei Israel Jews live. And they did not have a lot of tradition, but the tradition is, the story goes back, all the way back to the destruction of the first temple. That there are few verses of how those group of Jews came to India. Some saying it's a ship that wrecks in the shores of India, and there were groups. Nobody knows the truth, but there are a few options. Some saying it's people that were sent, a group of Jews that were sent on exile after the destruction of the first temple, and they found themselves in India. But anyway, they lived in isolation from the rest of the Jewish world. The brother of the Rambam, the Maimonides, his name was Avram. He was also a big scholar. And beside being scholar, he was a very big businessman. He was traveling a lot. He was coming to India very often to import spices, because India was, and maybe it still is, the capital of spices. And he wrote back to his brother, to the Maimonides, about this group of Jews that are living in India, and is most probably referring to the Bnei Israel Jews. And this going back about 850 years ago. And so this community, which in numbers were about 30,000 people in the 60s, but in the beginning of the 50s, few of them left to Israel, and then most of them started living to Israel after 1967, after the Six-Day War. Most of them started living to Israel. We still have about, hard to measure, but about 2,500 people living in Mumbai and in the area. So this is the second community. The third community is the Iraqi Jews, which were imported to India by the famous Sassoon, Sir David Sassoon, who had to flee from Iraq, from Baghdad, because the king over there wanted to kill him for whatever reason. And he moved to India, and he was very successful in India, was dealing first with opium. Wow. Then when it became illegal, so he started dealing with shmates, textile and stuff, and it was very successful. And he brought slowly many Jews from Iraq. He gave them an opportunity for work, and Jews have settled in Mumbai, in Kolkata, which was at the time the capital, during the British era, it was the capital of India, and also in the city of Pune, which is 3 hours drive from Mumbai. So there were those three major Baghdadi communities. And I think at the most, in 1946, when India got independence, there were about 5,000. The rest of his family traveled to Hong Kong and settled them there and started the Jewish community over there, then Singapore, then Shanghai, if I'm not mistaken. The Sassoon family, they are very famous. And what happened to this community is that when the British left in 1946, so many of them lost their business because they were mainly doing business with the British Empire. Many of them lost their business, so they left. Many left because in the beginning nobody was sure what's going to be the kind of if India would be a democracy or dictatorship. Nobody knew what's going to happen with India. India had a very big, the first, I don't know, couple of years were very, very, very tough because the British, as they left India, like they screw everything in Israel, they did the same in India, and they tried to split the land by ethnics and whatever. And there was a lot of, the beginning of India was very, very, the beginning of modern India in 1947 was very, very rough. So many people, they were afraid of it, so they left. Today in Mumbai, we have about maybe less than 20 individuals, and in Pune, maybe a few more. Kolkata community is about
20 individuals
10 people.
from that Iraqi community, left from that Iraqi.
They left. Most of them had British passport because they were part of the British Empire. So most of them left. Some of them left to Israel. Many of them to England. Some to Australia. Some to the United States. Very few stayed in India. Few hundred stayed in India. Today, the community, the Iraqi community, is very, very small and diminishing. And unfortunately, there's no new life in the Iraqi community.
Do they still have their own synagogue or temple or community?
Yes. So there is one synagogue, one Iraqi synagogue in Pune, two in Mumbai, and one or two in Kolkata. I've never been to Kolkata, so I don't know. I think two. So these are the Iraqi ones. The Bnei Israel one, we have 6 active synagogues still active. As I told you, there's about 2,500 people. There's still active synagogues. Not now doing.
Do you go visit them? Do you meet with them? Do you?
Sure. So the picture you showed before of the mikveh,
yes,
of Rabbi and the Rebbetzin at the mikveh is in the backyard of one of the synagogues in the city center. When they built it, the mikveh was the first thing that they did in Mumbai before they even had their own Chabad house. So they didn't have land to build it, so they purchased land from one of the synagogues. And so we are in touch with the synagogues. We have our Jewish school, which mostly caters to kids from the Bnei Israel community. Right now, everything is online, but until a couple of months ago, we had a normal school with about 25 kids, and after school programs and Sunday schools and whatever Rabbi Landa is doing.
Okay, amazing. And so a regular day in Chabad of Mumbai, do you cater mainly to the locals, or are there a lot of Israeli backpackers, or are there, like, what is it comprised of?
So it's very tough question to answer. The most of our energy and money it's spent on the local community. But the people who mostly come to us is tourists, local expats, Israeli backpackers, because they're looking for a place, they're looking for a place to be hosted. The locals, they do not need us for a synagogue because they have their own synagogues, but in terms of Jewish education, the community lacks Jewish education. So this is one of the things that we're very busy with. And the rest of Jewish infrastructure, like Shechita, Ameshoichet.
Oh, really?
Orlando will explain. What is this? Yes?
You're a ritual slaughterer. That's amazing. Wow.
I'm a ritual slaughterer because otherwise I have to be vegetarian. And for myself, it's not a big problem to be a vegetarian, but tell the next Israeli that knocks on the door that there's no schnitzels, and you might be in a situation. So, so we we try to provide kosher food. We have a big commercial kitchen in the Chabad house where we cater to. We have the only kosher restaurant in the city, and we cater to all the people, and we try to make Jewish life more appealing and more accessible to all those who are living in the city and passing through the city.
Amazing. I'll share some pictures of that.
That was before Corona.
Right.
And Corona.
Right. And where are you right now? Are you in your Chabad house?
Yes.
Or where are you visiting? Are you visiting somewhere? Are you home? I know it's close to midnight.
I'm actually in Delhi. I'm in Delhi and a factory. We are about to start a kosher run of crispy Rice Krispie flakes that will go to Israel.
Wow. So you're the mashgiach. So you're the mashgiach.
What happened is that all the kosher agencies in the world where they do a lot of activities in India, all of a sudden for the last 5 months, they can't send their mashgichim, they can't send their supervisors because India blocks the borders. So it happened to be that I'm the only one. So whenever there's an emergency for them, you know, those production things is planned a year ago. So they asked me to do them a favor, and I asked my wife, and if my wife agrees, that's a green line.
Amazing. So how long have you been in Delhi for?
So I just came up this morning, and I'm going to be here for 2 days. We had a problem with they didn't understood in the communication. Obviously, they didn't understand in the communication with the kosher agency how to prepare the plan for the kosherization problem. So from 9 o'clock in the morning, now it's almost midnight. It's 15 minutes past 11 p.m. We're still trying to figure out how to make it possible, but hopefully in the next couple of hours, we should be able to be on the go.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Amazing. So I'm going to, if it's okay with you, Yisrael, I'm going to share some pictures. This one especially is very poignant to me. This is the Modi, the Prime Minister of, on the left is the Prime Minister of India. Here's the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu. And this in the middle is little Moshe. He's not so little anymore, but he was the one almost 2-year-old that was saved from the Chabad house during the terrorist attack, the son of the shluchim of Gabi and Rifki. And that's his nanny who saved him and hid with him in a closet while the terrorist attack took place. This on the right with the beard is the Moshe's grandfather, Gabi's father, Gabi of blessed memory's father. When did this happen? Why were they both, you could see them both holding onto his shoulder. What happened? If you could share it, how did this picture come by? This is Moshe's first time back in India, if I'm not mistaken, from when he left.
No, so this picture is actually taken in Israel.
Oh, this one's in Israel.
Yeah, that was the first time that that Indian Prime Minister went to visit Israel. I think it's 2017, sometimes in 17. And this story, the attack at the Chabad house, it's I would say stands right in between the connection between India to Israel. And so when they were both in Yerushalayim, they invited Moshe and his nanny Sandra to come and meet them. During that visit, so Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu said to Moshe that when I'll pay a visit back to India, I'll take you with me. And this is what happened a few months later. They both came to India, and they both came to visit our Chabad house. You might have pictures from this event too.
Yeah, I do, and I'll share. But that's sorry. Sorry, let me just clear my throat. So that's amazing. Moshe, if I'm not mistaken, he told the Prime Minister, "I want to go back to India," and so he went back a few months later with on the Prime Minister's plane. And tell me about that visit, Moshe's first time back in India.
So before the visit, I wanna if we have time, I wanna talk about the story of his survival, which
Yeah,
is
please. And
unbelievable.
you know what? It's good for you to
I
explain it because for me, I'm like I've been reading of this for years. I've been following Moshe from a little baby, and I celebrated
yeah.
his bar mitzvah last year. So I'd love for you to give a little more of an understanding of it for people that maybe not so familiar.
So what happened is first of all, not many people know. Okay, I'll say it afterwards. Um, when the attack started, it was about 9:30 in the evening on Wednesday night. The terrorists walked into the Chabad house and they start shooting in the staircase. The nanny was just about to leave the house. It's a tall building, very narrow but tall one, six story tall. And so she ran back to the kitchen and she hid it in the kitchen storage room together with one of the kitchen workers whom happened to be Muslim. Okay, his name is Zaki. So they had a kitchen worker who was Muslim. The nanny himself, she is Christian. And there was, it was like a paradise. The Chabad house was a paradise. They had people, workers from all kind of backgrounds and sects. So they were hiding in that storage room until the next day. Now, the first thing that the police did was when they arrived at the scene, they cut the power, they cut the electricity to the building. So the whole building was, throughout the night, wasn't dark. Now, the baby, Moishi, was sleeping already in the 5th floor, which was their residence. And he was a day less than 2 years. The very next day was his 2nd birthday. And he was sleeping inside his baby crib. And his mother, after she puts him to sleep, she went down to the office, which was at the 2nd floor, to speak with the rabbi. And their 4 guests were also at that floor in the synagogue, studying, talking. Anyway, so the terrorists walking in, skipping the 2nd floor. At 1st floor, they don't see anybody at the restaurant, so they're going up to the 2nd floor, killing everyone, etc. Now, they are hiding, the nanny and the kitchen worker, Zaki, they are hiding in the storage room the whole night, and they just hear those blasts of grenades and shootings. And when the sunrise, the morning came, so they decided, we can be here for the rest of our life. We have to get out. So slowly, they opened the door. Now, that day, Rabbi Gabi did slaughtering, ritual slaughtering, and the freezers were filled with chickens. So what they did is they closed the storage room and they put everything, all the fridge and the freezers against the door, so the tourists won't be able to open the doors. And the next day, they decided to leave, so they moved those things, and they started slowly getting to the staircase to run down one story down to rescue themselves. When they got to the staircase, they heard Moshe crying from upstairs. Now, they know that the terrorists are still within the premises. The terrorists are still in the building. They hear the shooting between the police to them. I don't know what I would do if I would be at that stage, at that point of time, but thank God, Baruch Hashem, they decided to go up and look after the baby. So they went up one story, which is to the synagogue area, and where they saw the baby next to his wounded parents. They were probably, at that time, it was about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, so it's about 13 hours after they were shot. They were probably not alive anymore. And they grabbed the baby, which had the blood stains on his clothes, and they grabbed the baby and they ran downstairs, and this is how they saved him. Now, the miracle is, and until date, nobody can explain it, is how the baby who was asleep the night before in his baby crib at the 5th floor, he was 2 years old, and I have, thank God, 5 kids, and I had few of them passing 2 years. Not all of them None of them was able to climb up of the crib at 2 years old. And somehow we found ourselves in the second floor. I walk in this building every day for the last 8 years of my life. So first of all, where the wall where Rabbi Holzberg was shot, we still have the original bullet marks. We didn't, the whole building, almost all the building was restored, but we kept those as a commemoration. But whenever I go up the stairs, I'm just trying to, think to myself, what's happening to this baby who, in a complete darkness, he got up probably from the noise of the explosions or the grenades, and he was thirsty, hungry, terrified, and he was crying for his mother, his father. Nobody listened to him, nobody comes. So I don't know how, nobody knows how. He finds himself in the second floor where the nanny miraculously hears him and get the courage to go upstairs and to grab him and to rescue him. Now, not many people know, but the Holzbergs had 2 more kids. They had Mendy and Dovi, and then Moishi was the third one. In addition to those 2 kids, unfortunately, they had a genetic disease, which is called Tay-Sachs. I don't know if I pronounced it right.
Yeah, you said it right.
Do I, Rabbi Lander?
Yep, very well.
They had Tay-Sachs. So Tay-Sachs, it's a terrible disease where baby that if both parents carrying the same defect genes, so then there is a 75% chance of their kids, their babies to born with this defect. This defect it's a genetic defect that at about a year, the babies stop developing, and at about 2-3 years old, they can't live anymore. They had the first child in Israel, moved to India, Mendy, moved to India, was a healthy baby, few months old, everything was normal, everything was okay. The time came and they realized that something is not right with him. They did the test and they find out that he has Tay-Sachs. They kept him at home until a point where they could no longer, he needed medical equipment, which was not a household equipment. So they had to hospitalize him. They decided not to hospitalize him in India because they wanted a Jewish institution. Sometimes there's food to be kosher, and everything should be according to the Jewish law. So they traveled to Israel, hospitalized him in Ale, which is a unique institution that takes care of such kids, and they went back to India to carry on with the mission. They had the second child, Dovi, and the story unfortunately repeats itself. Now, Mendy passed away during their lifetime. Dovi passed away exactly at their Shloshim, marking the 30 days to their passing, and Dovi passed away in Israel, he buried right next to them. And from this whole family, Moishi, who I just told you the unbelievable miracle that happened to him, how God, there's no way, and I've toured the place with, I can say thousands, but I would just stick to hundreds of military experts and security experts and, trying to rebuild the story. Like, what happened there? Nobody could come up with, anything which makes sense. How the tourists, they toured the whole building, at least from the upper floors. This is at the highest floor. And Hashem saved them. And this is a sign that despite the tragedy and the loss and the major loss, it's Rabbi Lando remembers this tragedy because unfortunately we as Jews, we have a lot of tragedy. We on a day-to-day almost, but this one has left such a remark on us, especially on the Chabad movement. This is something that we could never, ever believe possible. The Rebbe's shluchim, us, we are at the front line. We are at the front line. We always protected. We have the blessings. We're doing all kind of of act of kindness and spreading love and Torah and Judaism and helping others. It was impossible that it would happen from them. But you see that despite within all these dark moments, you see how the light shines, and how Hashem is coordinating everything. Don't ask me why. I'm not a good lawyer, and even if I would be, I would not be God lawyers on this case. But Hashem has protected this child and rescued this child, who is just, by the way, this week is just started the yeshiva in Israel.
He just started yeshiva. That means he's so he just had his bar mitzvah last year. Oh, and
yeah.
You can hear us. And if I'm not mistaken, he wanted to have his bar mitzvah in Mumbai.
So he wanted to have his bar mitzvah in Mumbai. It wasn't possible. The family wanted to have a more of a family event, and it didn't happen at the end. But we are waiting for him. I'm keeping in touch with him, and we are waiting for him to grow a little more, so he will be able to come and join hands. And it will be a miracle. It will be the real Am Yisrael Chai, where despite all those attempts throughout the history, to extinguish, I'll tell you something. In the room where there's still those hand paints of the mother that she did, the Aleph Bet, and the mezuzah and the Torah that she did for Moshe, it was last night. Now, the last night of, the last kiss from his parents, he got in that very room, the last time he saw his parents. And on the wall, Rivki did a height measurement with marking, 20 centimeters, 30, sorry for the centimeters, we are on that part of the world. And at one point, she did a mark, and she wrote with a pencil, Moshe ben 13 chodesh, Moshe, 13-month-old. Now, when he visited with Bibi, with Prime Minister Netanyahu, so he showed it to him. So Bibi asked him to stand next to it and pull out a marker from his pocket, a famous blue marker where he uses everywhere, including in the UN and in the assembly speeches. He always has this blue marker in his pocket. And he marked his current height, and he wrote, Moshe is 11 or 12, I think 11, that was his age. Am Yisrael Chai.
Wow.
Because this is stories, but very powerful message of how Am Yisrael Chai, despite all those attempts and all those, enemies that we had, unfortunately, we still have, until the time of Mashiach, we will still have to face those things. But Am Yisrael Chai and Am Yisrael will live forever and ever.
Amen. And to answer a question coming in, if I'm not mistaken, Israel, Moshe does not remember the incidents in Mumbai from when he was.
No.
If I'm not mistaken, he doesn't remember. I'll send an article.
He has a little bit of recreational memories, because everybody talks to him about it. But when he walked in the building, he could not. It was young. It was just 2 years old.
Right. So
but this is.
I'm going to, if it's okay with you, I'm going to share a couple pictures. You're going to tell me what's going on. I just took them from your website and from your page. I know you probably have to go relatively soon, so I'm going to try to squeeze in. Who are you with?
They'll come to call me.
So who are you with over here?
This is very old picture. This is Orna Sagiv. She was the Consul General of the Israeli consulate. And this is at the mezuzah. You see, I'm holding a mezuzah in my hand when the consulate moved to a permanent place. So this is at the mezuzah ceremony there.
Beautiful. These are Chabad boys.
Rabbi Lado, you're very good at research. I didn't know it.
I have to deliver for my community.
So, one second. The picture you see at the side, you see a frame, a golden frame, right?
Yep, right here.
No. This is Gabi and Rivki. But at the
Oh,
other side,
yeah,
to the left, you see a golden frame,
yeah.
right? So this is a paint of the Rebbe that Gabi and Rivki did in Thailand. Before coming to India, they were in Thailand also for a few months. And there is a very famous painter that makes paints of the Rebbe.
Wow.
So they did it over there. They took it with them to Israel, then to India, and it moves from all the rented places until it came to the permanent Chabad house. It was in the second floor of the Chabad house during the attack. The wall surrounding it was full with bullets, and this picture is untouched. Then it moves to all the different temporary location until 7 years ago we placed it back in the original place where it was.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, cool. Thank you, Israel.
So this is just backpackers traveling, passing by. This is few students who are helping us throughout the years to deal with all the people we need to deal with.
How many people do you have on average before Corona? How many people do you have at your Seder in Mumbai?
Seder is the most packed event we had last year. Not this past one. This past one we were sitting alone. But the year before that, we had about 140 people in two places, like in two floors, one for Hebrew. So this is my wife in one of the local synagogues, and she has a class for the local Bnei Israel ladies. You see, they're wearing the saris and everything like the Indians, and they speak the local language and everything. Yes. So
what city is this in? Is this in Mumbai?
this is in Mumbai. Yes.
Amazing. And this is in your home, the same picture on the left. Are these,
Yeah.
is this just the Jewish women of the community?
No, this is a group of travelers. We have a lot of group of travelers who are passing through the city, and they need to come for lunch and to have kosher foods. So this is we are the everything Jewish point for them.
And I'm going to ask you a very personal question, Yisrael, because you're my friend. I don't mind asking. From other Chabad rabbis that we've been interviewing, we've seen pictures of tourists. I'm just very curious. Do they pay when they come, or they just say we want to come for kosher food and dine and dash?
So we are very different from many Chabad houses because we don't cater to one segment. We cater to local community, business people, rich travelers, those who are cruising. And so we made a menu which is comprised of, very, very 50 cents dishes to $10 dishes. And those who can pay. I'm talking about during the week. On Shabbat, we never charge. Shabbat and holidays, we don't charge money.
And as we're going through, I'm just so inspired seeing so many people that you cater to. And Bezrat Hashem, you should have everything you need, and physically and spiritually. And on behalf of our community,
Amen.
We're going to support you also a little bit. So this is the picture you're talking about, Yisrael. And there's a cute baby that's being held in one of the arms over here. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on over here?
Yeah, so this is you see the paint. You see the paint in the back, the Rebbe's paint in the back.
Yeah.
And this is again ladies from the community. Rabbi Lander, you're not so good in research because this is this baby is 6 years old now. Should have get one more recent, more updated pictures. But this is my son Mendy.
That's your son Mendy. If I'm not mistaken, you have a son named after the rabbi.
Yeah.
Gabi.
Yeah, we have a son. We have a son named after the rabbi, and we have another couple who moved down to the city 2 years ago, and they have a daughter named after Rivki.
Amazing. So you have say that again. You have a couple that
we have a couple. We brought down another couple to help us. They actually live in a city which is right next to Mumbai, where many of the local community lives. It's called Thane, and they opened a Chabad house over there. And about 2 years. They moved there just about 8 or 9 months ago, but they are in Mumbai for the last 2 years. Yes.
Wow. And Gabi, and Yisrael, if I'm not mistaken, I prayed for this baby 5 years ago or so, June, Gimel Tammuz time. He hurt his head, and I remember we were praying for him, right?
So this baby which you see, his name is Mendy, and he was declared dead 3 times. In a hospital in Mumbai, was declared dead 3 times, and my wife literally grabbed the doctors like this in the chulza, how do you say, shirt?
Yeah, the
And
collar.
she told them that the doctor said there's nothing to do, there's nothing to do, we're stopping the CPR. And she grabbed the doctor like this and she told the doctor, if you don't go back, I'm going to call the police. So he did like this, the Indian shake, and he went back, and thank God he's fully functional. Although the doctors told us that he will be handicapped, he won't be able to move this hand, he will not have this, he will not have today. He's a regular child that gets me angry very often. Thank God.
Baruch Hashem. That's a beautiful blessing. Wow. Yisrael, amazing. I'm just going to take you through a few more. Thank you for sharing that, Yisrael. So this is just some of the locals?
Yeah, so this is a camp.
This is your camp.
The kids on the camp, traveling. This is one of the counselor in the middle. Then you can see kids from all backgrounds. One of the kids is Israeli, and the rest are local Indians.
They look so happy. So amazing. So this is
they are.
camp?
Yes, this is I think the Sunday school, or maybe the camp also.
Wow.
Taking them to some play area.
So this, if I'm not mistaken, Israel, is a Purim party. We had a very similar Purim party. We had a bubble show. We had the same theme of Under the Sea. Tell me a little.
Under the Sea, yeah.
So we had
the Under the Sea.
So it's amazing that us in Northern California are doing similar events and similar Purim parties with bubble shows like you are.
Yeah, so we need to be creative in California and in India. Wherever you are, you need to be creating. So my wife, she's the creative part. I'm trying to help her. That's it. So this is a bubble show, and again, those events are a little difficult because again, you have to cater to a different type of people.
Wow, amazing. So
but you can see throughout the activities we mainly focus on kids because this is more important. The next generation.
So on the right is you, and on the left is that the other rabbi and his wife you brought out.
It's Rabbi Bloy, yes, and in the middle you can see an old lady. We call her Safta.
Oh wow!
Because we had to adopt a granddaughter for our kids. We wanted our kids to grow up with a normal family. So we have adopted her as a granddaughter, and my kids call her Safta.
Amazing.
And this is a menorah lightening, that a tradition that started by Rabbi Holzberg of blessed memory, to do it at the gateway of India, which is one of those symbols of India. Mm-hmm. And by the grace of God, we're carrying forward this event every year. So I think it's one of the largest menorah lighting in the world, because there's thousands and thousands of people are standing. It's a very big space, and thousands of locals are standing to see what is the event, what are the songs, and it's very interesting.
Amazing. So this is your Seder that you host?
Right. This is the Seder, and this is already in the Chabad house. The previous pictures you show was in the before we renovated the building that was attacked. This is already in the Nariman house, the building that was attacked.
Amazing. This is the renovation.
Yeah.
And this is the picture of Gabi Rifki. And this is your family, Kanai Nahara.
You're missing one. There's one more to add here.
Baruch Hashem. Hopefully So this is the president of Israel, Rivlin. Is that his wife?
Yes.
Who came to visit as well?
Yeah, his wife, she actually passed away last year, and when she came to us, she was already very sick. She was with the support of oxygen.
Wow.
And we told her, that there's a lot of dust, because the upper parts of the Chabad house, we are going to build a museum.
Wow.
So we told her maybe you should go to the. She said, no, I have to go and see where the baby was saved, and. So yes, this is Nechama.
Wow. So you actually answered, Yisrael, most of the questions as you were going through. Could you tell us just one story in conclusion of an impact you've had of being a Chabad rabbi or your wife being a Chabad rebbitzin in Mumbai on someone living in Mumbai?
I'll tell you a different kind of story, okay? Not the typical story that the rabbi would like to hear. No, it's a beautiful story. There's a say that when you're helping someone, you're really helping yourself. You familiar with the say?
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that in theory, when you're helping someone, you're doing a favor, and when doing this favor, you're creating a good impact for yourself, and you have the mitzvah of love and care for others. Anyway, so this is kind of a story where we have realized that. So when we moved to the Chabad house after the renovation, we had no water connection. So Mumbai and India has no 24 hours running water in the tap, okay? There's 2 hours a day supply of water from the municipality if you are lucky, if you are connected to the line. There's big areas which are not even connected and they have to take care of themselves. Now, I had no clue of what's happening and we moved, so big buildings or buildings have under the building, there's a tank that holds whatever X amount of water. It gets filled every morning between 4 to 6 in the morning. And then there's a pump that pumps it to the roof. In the roof, you have another storage. From that, it distributes throughout the building. Okay? What happens if during the day you run out of water? You use all your water. So you need to call a truck that comes with a water tank and they fills you in and they charge you very good money and it's a very big business. Anyway, we moved into the Chabad house and there's no water in the taps. So I'm asking the contractor, well, so said I'll approach the authorities to connect the building. Anyway, he does, then he said, no, we have a problem. We don't have building completion certificate. So I told them, so get a building completion certificate. I said, no, it's not possible. Why? Because of the attack, we did a lot of modification to the outside of the building to increase security. We built a security booth. We built the wall. And, certain cameras and stuff which are not legalized. And we didn't ask for permission. I didn't know I need one, and the contractor didn't tell me. Anyway, so basically tells me they won't connect you to this because some of the structure is illegal. So I'm trying to get connections, to pull connections here and there to get help from this guy and that guy, and I can't get it done. And in the meantime, every day we have a truck or 2 trucks that comes and fills up our tank, our storage tank with water. The problem is, first of all, the water that they bring is not the highest standard water. You don't know where they bring this water from. And second, which hurt my wife. And the second, which hurt me, was costly. I had to pay. It was like $50 $50 a day that I had to pay for water. And the story goes on and on, few months already. One Motzi Shabbos, I get a call from the police station at the airport. Rabbi, there is an Israeli here, come and take him. Okay, I'm used to those phone calls. But I'm trying to, it was already 10 or 10:30 at night, so I'm trying to find out more information. So they tells me there's a guy, he's about 70 years, he's confused. Usually the police call me when somebody steal, bribe, deals with drugs or whatever, when they need, this guy needs my help, so they call me to translate, to bring him food, whatever. This guy, they just told me, come and take him. I said, what do you mean come and take him? What would I do with him? What is his condition? Anyway, after a few minutes, I went to the airport. Now, I was very tired, so I decided to take with me one of the boys that helping us. There was a boy that came just the weekend, just on Thursday he came. This was Motzi Shabbos. So I called him up. I said, Mendy, you want to come with me to help me? He said, sure. And he came down the Chabad house, and we're both driving to the airport. We're coming to the airport, and there's a guy. He's all confused, telling me, all ready? Chalwe? Yeah. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. There's a guy telling me he's invented the MRI, and people stole the patent from him, and he comes to India to find treasures. Like after 2 minutes, I realized the guy is not really connected. I tried to get information from him. He doesn't want to share anything with me. The only thing he has is a passport and an old smartphone or old phone. Anyway, we looked for a charger. We found the charger. I started looking at the numbers. I found the number of, a name that looked like one of his kids. I waited till Shabbos is going to be over in Israel. I called this number, and this guy said, yes, it's my father. We are looking for him. We don't know a few days. We don't know what happened for him. He ran to India to travel, and we lost touch 3-4 days ago. Long story short, the guy flew, and he put all his medicines. He was on medicines for had blood pressure and heart and whatever few good things. And he put all his medicine in his suitcase, and the airline lost his bag. So after 2 or 3 days, he lost clarity. 2 or 3 days without his medications, he lost clarity. He didn't know where he is, what's happening with him. And this is how the police found him. The police found him roaming around the belt in the airport because he remembered that the airline lost his baggage, so he went to the belt. He flew from another city. I don't really know. But anyway, here we go. It's already 1 o'clock in the morning, and I have this guy who have invented the MRI, and people stole the patent from him, and he doesn't have his medication, and his wife tells me, listen, 2 or 3 of the medications he really needs it. He won't get it. It's a threat. So now I'm in India. She only knows the names of the medications in Israel. Now I have to find a way to translate or convert because they sold under different brands. So she's confused. She doesn't know. So she calls and wakes up her doctor, and the doctor explains me what he needs. And now it's already 2 in the morning, and I need to find those medications. Okay, I don't have prescriptions. I don't have anything. I'm driving with him in my car, and he was, at that point, he was so tired, but before that, he was threatening me that I won't take him and this, and I won't steal his patents and stuff. Anyway, we are driving. I see a hospital. I walk. So I told Mendy, the boy that was with me, I told him, Mendy, watch him for a few minutes. I'm going to the hospital, going inside, approaching the doctor, explaining to the doctor the situation. The doctor tells me, listen, I cannot just give you the medicine. I have to hospitalize him. And, hospitalization in India, it may be one-way ticket. So I told them, no, you got to help me. Anyway, at the end, I walked out with the 3 major medicines that this guy needed. But now what do I do with it?
Oh.
Okay, yeah?
Okay, yes. Let's see. Can you check?
Extruder?
Extruder is ready now.
Toaster?
Toaster is ready. Dynapore sheet is ready. Dynapore sheet, reassemble again.
Assembly is done?
Assembly is done. Only you need to check
Extruder cleaning?
Extruder cleaning, you need to cross check. After that, we will.
2 minutes, I'm coming.
Okay.
Anyway, so.
When we do, when we start and reassemble. Only
Kitna time reassembling? Extruder reassembling? 20 minutes?
15 minutes only. 15 minutes minimum. Everything is okay, only your permission need to, after that we can attach. Okay.
2 minutes. Anyway, so what do I do with the guy? It's 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. What do I do with him? So I called my wife. My wife tells me, listen, under no circumstances you bring him home. She was afraid, we have small kids and stuff. And I said, that Chaya, what would I do with this guy? Anyway, so I know one of the guest house where the Israelis usually stay. I know the owner. I call him 4 o'clock in the morning. I tell him, listen, I have one. He said, no problem, you can bring him. I told him, listen, he's a little bit tricky, He said, if it's your responsibility, no problem. As we walk him in, the guy panics. Oh, this is the guy that wanted to kill me, and this is that. Anyway, it took me another hour to put him in bed and to sneak the medicine in the food. I bought him some sandwiches and I put the medicine because he refused to take the medicine. He thought we are killing him. And I'm walking out. It's already 5 in the morning. And I'm telling the guest house owner, I tell him, listen, if this guy walks out of here without me present here, it's your last day. I thought, the next day he's going to get up and he's going to evaporate, and then I'm going to have to look for him. Anyway, so he promised me, don't worry. Anyway, I'm going now. I'm dead tired. But I have the boy with me, where he stays in the Chabad house. In the upper floor in the Chabad house, we have 2 rooms. And I live in my apartment, but I had to drop him. And because he was new, he didn't know how to enter the security system with the alarm and the cameras and everything. So I walk him into the building. I open the alarm and everything. It's completely dark. As he enters the building, I close the door, and I'm about to go out. I hear water gushing, like. Oh. I hear water gushing. So I thought, there's a pipe from a toilet somewhere that is broken and the water is gushing through. Anyway, but I said, let me see what is there. I put the torch on my phone and I'm walking with the torch around the building, and I see behind the building a small pipe, metal pipe comes out of the ground this height, and there's water gushing through from. And right next to it, there is a drainage, and all the water goes into the drainage. And I hold myself like this. So it turns out that all those years, we had water connection. The only thing that was missing during the construction, they broke a small pipe of a 5 meter that connected from the provision of the municipality line to our storage. And I never know, because I was never in the building between 4 to 6 in the morning. And this time, because of this Meshugginer, I had to be there 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. I couldn't believe myself. I took a video because I thought maybe I'm, Jose, how do you say, maybe I'm dreaming. It was so early in the morning. 1 second. I took a video, I sent it to the constructor. The next day, yes, he told me I'll have to come. The next day we connected a plastic hose, and the next day we had water. This is the video. You can see?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Wow.
1 second, it will load. The internet here is very
low. So.
You see the pipe here and the water? This is the drainage.
Wow. What a story. So you got a help from this Israeli guy. Amazing. What a story.
Yeah. The next day, this guy was already on a flight to Israel. We found 2 backpackers that flying, and they were willing to take him with them, and they took him. So this guy, the whole story happened just for me to find water out of the stone.
So we'll let you go, Yisrael.
I have to hang up. Yes, people are waiting for me.
First of all, hold on, two more questions. First of all, do you have air conditioner in your home? Is that something that exists?
It does. Don't talk about it right now, not with my wife, because it's not working.
And the final thing is, 15 years ago when we were together in yeshiva, I never would have imagined you would have the head shake, the Indian head shake, down pat and done so nicely. But Yisrael, when I heard and I saw that you were going to start the shlichut in Mumbai, I couldn't have thought of a better person for the job. someone who has such joy and patience and love for
Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Landa, I don't have enough money to pay you for this.
But in truth, actually, we're going to be, on behalf of my community, we're going to be supporting you. I'll WhatsApp you for a donate link. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we'd like to support you in your incredible work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Israel,
Thank you. And you are all welcome when, things are easing and the borders are open again and California gets a green light to travel. You are more than welcome to join us here in Mumbai. Rabbi Lando, you included.
Thank you, Israel. I appreciate it.
I'm afraid from the competition, but because of your congregation, I'll get you in.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Ksiva v'chsima tova, you should be inscribed and sealed.
Shana tova.
Shana tova.
Amen. Amen.
Bye, Israel.
Sweet New Year.
Amen. We need it.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.